Okay, so this is the second part of the collection series. In the first part, we have already covered about arrays. And if you haven't watched that video, I'd be suggesting you that you firstly navigate to that video, watch it completely. There we have covered the entire arrays. With this, we have also seen how to implement binary search and linear search in Kotlin. Now, in this section, we'll be covering about the remaining collections, which are sets, map, list, and array list. So the first thing which we are going to cover is list. Now list in Kotlin are ordered collection of elements. They allow duplicate elements and are accessed by index. Now let us create a simple list. For list, what we can do is we can simply say something like var. Then we can name our list. We can say something like number list. And then after this, we can simply come over here and then we can simply say list of. And then we can specify the type of this list. Now we can say that the elements are of integer type, and then we can assign the values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Okay. Now here we can also print these values by simply saying something like, we can say for, then we can say number in number list, and then in this for loop, we can simply say something like print, and in this print, we can basically print this number. Okay. Now, if we run this block, we'll be able to see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Now, list by default are immutable. So that means that you cannot insert a value, you cannot update a value, and you cannot remove a value. For that, what we have to do, we have to make this list of the type mutable. So what we can do is, let us suppose we try to add a value to this list. How do we do it? We can simply say number list dot add, and then we can basically specify a value inside this, like something as 5, right? But it is not working. The reason is this list is of normal type. So we have to make it mutable list. We can say something like mutable list of, and then we can say something like it is of type int. Let us remove this section. Let us also remove this. And if we do it, now see, this add is not showing us a syntax error, right? Now what we can do, we can basically print this list again by simply bringing this for loop down over here. And now if we run this, we'll be able to see that now we are having 5 at the end of this 6, right? So after this 6, we are having this 5. Now, how is list differ from an array? Now, a list is something which can actually expand a size, while array have a fixed size. Let us suppose we are having an array which is basically having 5 elements and its size is also 5. Then we cannot add a 6th element. The reason is that arrays cannot expand by themselves and we cannot expand an array. But a list can automatically increase its size. Now, how do it increase its size? It basically doubles its current size. So let us suppose if the list is having something like a size of 128 KB, then it will basically double its size. Okay. Now, there are various more things which are needed to be understood. Now, the things are that when we create a new list, let us suppose, and we insert 5 values, now the list by default take a size of 5. Now, if we add a 6th value, the list will not add that 6th value on the same address. But what it will do is, it will create another new list, and then it will copy all the elements from the existing list to the new list, and then it will add the 6th element, and then it will clear the previous list, so that memory allocation, or we can say that memory can be used by any other one. Or we can say anyone other can use that particular memory location. Okay. Now let us see what we can do more. So we can also say something like, we can have another list. Let us suppose we say something like val, and then we can say something like new list, and then we can simply say list of, and let us suppose we don't mention this. We can simply say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then we can add this new list to the number list. How do we do it? We can simply come over here. We can say number list dot add all. So we can say add all, And then we can basically pass this. So we can say new list. And if we do it, and now if we come over here and we print this again after this, so let us see what we will be able to see. So if we come over here and we try to rerun this again, see, now we can see the remaining things. So now what it has done, it has again added this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which we can see over here, right? So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 has been added over here, right? For this, what we can do, we can also bring a println over here, so we can clearly see this. And if we run again, we'll be able to see that now after this 5, there are the remaining values which has been automatically added, right? Now let us do a few more things. We can also remove a value by simply saying something like, okay, so we can come over here and then we can simply say something like, we can say number list dot, we can say remove, and then we can remove any element. Like we can say we want to remove, let us suppose 5, okay? And if we run, now this 5 has been removed. So we can print this again. We can have this for loop again. Let us bring this, so we can have this for loop over here, and then we can have another for loop after this. And then we can have a println over here. Okay, now let us run this. Now if we run this, you can clearly see that the first occurrence of this 5 has been removed from here. Now we can also do few more things, like we can also remove a certain index value. How do we do it? We can simply say number list dot remove at, and then we have to specify the index. Let us suppose I want to remove the first value. We can say the first index value. So it will remove the value which is at index 0, which is 1. Okay. Now if we again print this, so we will be requiring a println, and then after this we can simply print this for loop. And if we do it, then you can see this 1 has been removed from here, right, which was previously coexisting. It has been removed. The reason is we are using this remove at. Now we also have few more things, like we can also say something like, so we can also have something like, we can say number list dot add, where we can also specify index. Like we can say if we want to add something at the 0th index, then we can say 1. And now if we again print this, let us copy this, paste it over here again. Now if we come down, we can see that 1 has been again added, right? And if you see clearly, the remaining array, or we can say the remaining list, has been shifted 1 index, right? So we can see that previously 2 was at 0, now 2 is at 1, right? They has been shifted with 1 index towards the right side. So this is all about list. And now let us cover the next thing, which is maps. Okay, so till now we have covered arrays and list. Now in arrays and list, each of the item is basically mapped with its index, right? So let us suppose we are having an array with values something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 1 is paired with the index 0, 2 is paired with the index 1, and it is basically followed on, right? Now in maps, we can actually define the map element, and this with this we can also define the mapped element. Okay, so let us suppose we can say something like that Alice is having 30 marks, or we can say something like that Bob is having 25 marks, or we can have something like like Charlie is of age 30, something like that. Okay, so let us see how we can do it. We can simply say something like val, we can say ages. Now in this ages, we can simply say that this age is basically of the type map of. Then we can remove this because we don't want it. Now we can have a name, like we can have something like Alice. So we can have Alice, and then we can say Alice to something like 35. So now Alice index is basically having a value of 35. But we can similarly have more elements, like we can have something like, Bob to 25. Then we can also have something like Charlie, and Charlie can be having a value of maybe 56, something like that. Okay. Now over here, we are mapping these values to its corresponding map element, which is basically this Alice, Bob, and Charlie. But in case of arrays and lists, we were mapping this element to its corresponding index. Okay, now what we can do, we can basically print any particular index value. How do we do it? We can simply say print, then we can refer to our ages map, and then we can simply use the index. Now over here, the indexing will be this key, okay? So the key is basically Alice. So if we say Alice, then we'll be getting this 35 value. And if we run this, you'll be able to see this 35, right? Now we can do a few more things, like we can also print all of those values by using a for loop. We can simply say for, and then in this for, we can simply have something like name, comma, age, and then we can simply say in ages. Now if we come over here, we can simply say print, and then we can have the $sign, and then we can say name is of $, and then we can say age, right? And now we can have a println before this. So there is a new line, and if we do it, we can also use this as a println. Perfect. Now if we print this, let us say, we will be getting this Alice is of 35, Bob is of 25, Charlie is of 56, right? Now we can do more things, like we can even update a value by simply, specifying the index. So we can simply say ages, and let us say we want to change the age of Alice. Let us say Alice is of now, like we can say he is now 36. Okay. Now if we come down, now let us see what is happening. Okay, so by default maps are also immutable, so we have to make it mutable. So we can come over here and we can say mutable map of, right? And now we can assign a value, right? Now we can again print this index, and if we come over here, then print this, we can simply say something like ages, and then we can simply say, so it was basically Alice, so we can say Alice. And if we run, we can see now Alice is of 36, right? Now we can also use the put method to basically add a new pair. How do we do it? We can come over here, we can say something like ages, then we can say put, and now we can basically pass our new pair. We can say something like, we can say coding hub, and then we can say that it is of now 1. And now what it is saying that convert put to assignment. Okay, so we can also do this, but we can also do that also, right? Now let us run this. Okay, now we can print this. So we can print this ages, and then we can basically specify this coding hub, right? Okay, so we can specify this coding hub, and we can use a println over here. So we can say println, and now if we run this, now we can see that this coding hub is basically having a value of 1. So we can have this println over here also. So this one comes after this 36, right? So you can see that now this, this coding hub has been added to the end. We can do this thing also by assigning this. So this is what it is saying us to convert put to assignment. We can do that also. And if we run this again, we'll be still able to see this. Okay. Now let us also see few more things. Like you can also remove a particular, map by saying something like, we can say ages, right? Or we can directly specify this. Okay, so we can say ages dot remove, and then we have to specify the key. Let us suppose we want to remove Alice, and if we do it, and after this we print this again, come over here, let us print this again, we will be able to see that Alice is not present over there because Alice has been removed, right? Now we can also clean, or we can say clear our entire map by simply saying something like ages dot clear. And if we do it, and if we again print this after this clear, we'll be able to see nothing because the map has been cleared. See, now we are able to see nothing. The reason is map has been cleared. So this is all about map. And in the next section, we are going to cover about sets. Okay, now what are sets? Sets is something which is basically, discussed in mathematics. Now sets is something which only contains unique elements and it will not contain any duplicate elements. So how do we create a set? We can simply say, well, I can say my set, and then we can simply say set of. And now if I say that this set is of type integer, and let us suppose I try to assign some duplicate values like 1, 1, 1, then I can say something like 2, 3, 4. And now if we come over here and we try to print this set by simply saying something like, numbers, or we can say number in my set. And then if we come over here and we say print ln, and then we say number, now you'll be able to see that none of these duplicate elements will be considered. See how it automatically removes all of these duplicate 1s and 2s, right? So this is what sets are. Sets basically contains only unique values. Now there are different mathematical functionalities in sets like intersection, union, and all of that. So we'll be not covering all of that. You can basically look into the documentation for understanding all of that. Now the next thing is that we can also remove an element from a set by simply saying something like my set dot remove. Now before removing that, we have to make this set to be of mutable. So we can say set, and we can say something like mutable set of, and then we can remove any element. Like we can say we want to remove 1, then we can again have this for loop like number in my set, and then we can have a println after this. And if we come over here and we say number, and if we try to rerun this, now for the next iteration, you can see that 1 is not present because 1 has been removed, right? We can also clear the set by simply saying my set dot clear. And after this, if we try to print this set again, we'll be able to see nothing. The reason is the entire set has been cleared. Now, there is one more thing. The thing is that sets are not ordered like lists and arrays. So in lists and arrays, the elements are ordered, but in sets, the elements are unordered. Okay. Now this is all about sets. And in the next section, we'll be covering the array list. Okay. So what are array list? Now array list is a specific implementation of the mutable list. Array list has both the features of list and arrays. So it is having a faster access time like we have in the array. The reason is it basically, uses array as its backend. However, it also has the mutability, and we can say that it is basically something which can automatically increase its size like a mutable list. Okay. So how do you basically, create an array list? You can simply say something like val, and then we can have names list, something like that. And then we can simply say array list of. Now we can specify the type. We can say that it is basically of int, or we can say something like it is of string, something like that. And then we can basically specify the names. However, we are not needed to specify that because we already know that Kotlin is having the inference and it will do all of that things, right? So we can simply say something like Alice, then we can have something like Bob, and then we can also have few more names, like we can have something like Charlie, right? So now we can see that we are having this names list. Now by default, our names list, or we can say our array list, is of the type mutable. So we are not required to say mutable array list of. Okay, so by default, arrays are mutable. That means we can insert value, remove value, or we can update any value, right? So we can simply come over here and have something like name list, and then we can simply say add. And we can add any element, like we can say something like coding hub, right? And now if we simply print it by simply saying for name in names list, now we can come over here and have something like println, and then we can say name. So now if we run it, we'll be able to see all the previous 3 names, the new one which we have just recently added, right? Now it basically have all the other features which we are having in the list. Like we can also do add all and all of that. So we can basically specify a new list by simply saying val name extra list, and then we can simply say array list of, and then we can have more names, like we can have names like hello world, all of that. And then we can also say something like names list. So we are specifying this list, and then we can say add all, and now we can add all the names which were in the extra list to this existing list, which is names list. Now if we come over here and have something like name in names list, and then we can basically print all the elements. Now if we do it, we'll be able to see all the new names, which is hello and world, added to this. And we can see this, right? Now it is basically having all of this, like Alice, Bob, Charlie, then we were having that coding up, and then we are having this hello and world, right? We can also remove elements by simply coming over here and saying names list dot remove, and then we can remove any specific one. Like we can say we want to remove hello, and if we do it, now let us suppose we bring it over here and we print it over here, we'll be able to see that hello has been removed, right? So hello has been removed. We can also have something like remove at. Okay, so we can also say remove at, and then we can specify our index, like we can have an index of 0, something like that. And if we do it, now this Alice will be removed. Now you can see that after coding up, we are directly having Bob, so Alice has been removed. So this is all, this is all which we are basically having in this array list. Now we can also have remove, something like, we can also have remove all by simply saying something like, so we can have another, let us say list, where we can say name extra list extra. And if we do it, and we can say array list of, and let us suppose we have some names, like we can have Alice, and then we were having few more names like Bob. And now I can remove all the elements, elements which are over here from this list. So I can come over here and I can say something like names list dot remove all, and then we can have something like, name extra list extra, something like that. Okay, so this L will be capital because it uses the camel casing. We have to do the same thing over here. Okay, now let me print this. So we can come over here, we can have name in name list. And now if we come over here and suppose we print this name, we'll be able to see that, all the things has been removed, right? So we are having this Charlie coding up hello world, but we are not having Alice Bob, right? So Alice was already removed, right? Now the Bob will only be removed. So what happens over here? Let us suppose we are having a value over here and the same values is over here, then that value will be eliminated from this names list. However, if there is a value in this name extra list extra, which is not present over here, then nothing will be happening, right? So we are basically subtracting this from this, or we can say we are subtracting this Alice Bob from this, and if something doesn't exist over here, which exists over here, then nothing will happen, okay? So this is all about collection. Now what you have to do, you have to basically practice all of these things. You can basically navigate to the documentations which I have referred in the description. You can look into that. You can try to practice all the questions which are present over there. You can also practice few more questions using something like ChatGPT and all of that. Okay. Now what you have to do, you have to basically subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming updates on Kotlin and Android development. Till then, have a great coding journey ahead. This is Coding Hub signing off for this video, and we'll be meeting soon.